AITA for refusing to babysit my niece and nephew because their parents needed a break, and now the entire family is calling me selfish? So, this situation has been brewing for a few months, and honestly, I never thought it would blow up like this. But here we are. I, 28F, have always been close with my sister, 32F, and her husband, 35M, and they have 2 kids, my niece, 6F, and nephew, 3M. My sister and her husband both work full-time jobs, and I get that parenting young kids is tough and exhausting. I'm not a parent myself, but I do have experience watching kids for friends and family on occasion, so I get how demanding it can be. For the past year or so, my sister and her husband have asked me to babysit their kids multiple times, sometimes on short notice. Most of the time, I'm happy to help out for a few hours during the weekend or occasionally an evening because I love my niece and nephew and want to support my sister. I have a stable job with a pretty consistent schedule, so it's usually manageable. However, recently, the requests have increased dramatically, and the reasons have shifted from we have an appointment or we have a date night to we just need a break or we're overwhelmed. I get that parenting is stressful, but the way it's been handled is starting to bother me. To give some context, my sister and her husband have never hired a babysitter or daycare to watch their kids regularly, even though they can afford it. They rely almost entirely on family help. Before, I didn't mind helping occasionally, but now it's almost every weekend and sometimes during the week in the evenings. On top of that, they expect me to watch the kids for 6 to 8 hours at a time, sometimes without much notice. I'm an introvert and I work a full-time job, so this level of babysitting is draining for me. It's not just the time, but the mental energy of caring for 2 very active young kids. What finally pushed me over the edge happened last weekend. My sister called me on a Friday evening around 6 p.m. and asked if I could watch the kids Saturday from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. because they needed a break and had plans to relax at home without kids. I told her I already had plans that Saturday morning, but I could do the afternoon. She sounded annoyed and asked me to reconsider because they really needed the full day. I explained I had something important scheduled that morning, so I couldn't cancel. She then said, "Well, if you don't do this, we don't know what we're going to do. You're the only one who can help right now." I felt this guilt trip coming on, but stayed firm and said I couldn't do the full day. On Saturday morning, she sent me a long text saying I was being selfish, that family should help family, and that they were at their breaking point. She said she was disappointed in me and that this would make me look bad in the family. At this point, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed and a little resentful. I love my niece and nephew, but I'm not their full-time babysitter. I have my own life and responsibilities. I don't mind helping out occasionally, but not to the point where I'm the only backup plan. So, I wrote back explaining that I'm happy to help when I can, but that their constant reliance on me without exploring other childcare options is unfair. I suggested they look into daycare or hiring a babysitter regularly because it's not sustainable for me to always be on call. This response didn't go over well. My sister sent me another message calling me cold and uncaring. She accused me of putting my own comfort ahead of her family's needs. Our parents got involved too, and now there's a whole family group chat where I'm being told I should step up, help my family, and stop being so selfish. To be clear, I've never refused to babysit entirely. I've always helped when I can, but I want some boundaries and respect for my own time and needs. I'm torn because I love my family and want to support them, but I also feel like I'm being used as a free babysitter. The pressure and guilt are starting to take a toll on me, and I don't know if I'm really the asshole here. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to babysit my niece and nephew on short notice because their parents needed a break, and standing my ground about not being their go-to childcare provider all the time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding crash my honeymoon. This all started about 6 months ago when I, 29F, got engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 31M. We've been together for almost 5 years, and we're both pretty traditional when it comes to weddings and honeymoons. We wanted something intimate, just close family and a few friends, and then a honeymoon to celebrate our new life together. We booked a beautiful beach resort in the Maldives, Mark's idea, and honestly, it was perfect. Here's where things get messy. My sister, Rachel, 27F, got engaged about 3 months after we did. We're close, but she's always been a bit more dramatic and prone to stirring up family tension. When she got engaged, she immediately started talking about her wedding plans and wanted to do hers around the same time as ours. Rachel's fiancé, Jason, 28M, is a nice enough guy, but kind of laid back. Rachel has been the one really pushing for a big, extravagant wedding, even though Jason is more about keeping things simple. She started planning a big party for the weekend right after our wedding, which was fine initially, but then she announced she wanted to invite all of our family and friends to her wedding celebration, and that's where the real problem started. She said she wanted the whole family to be together since it's rare to have these big life events so close, and she wanted us all to celebrate together. The issue is that her big party is actually a second wedding celebration, with a full ceremony, DJ, catering, and dancing, basically a full wedding day. The thing is, our weddings are just 2 weeks apart. Our honeymoon was booked for 2 weeks immediately after our wedding, and Rachel started insisting that Mark and I skip the honeymoon or cut it short so we could attend her wedding celebration. She said it would mean so much to her if we were there, and our absence would be heartbreaking. She also told me that her wedding venue and date were booked months ago, which was true, but she only started telling us about it seriously after we had already planned everything for our wedding and honeymoon. At first, I thought it was just a big misunderstanding. I told Rachel and Jason that we had already planned everything and booked the honeymoon, and I wouldn't feel comfortable canceling it because it was her special trip. Rachel got upset and accused me of putting her wedding second and being selfish. She told me that since we're sisters, I should support her and be there for her no matter what. Mark backed me up 100%. He said our honeymoon was important to both of us and we shouldn't have to sacrifice it for anyone else's wedding. We also explained that we've had to plan everything carefully to fit work schedules, budgets, and family obligations, so it's not a simple matter of just moving dates around. Rachel started talking to other family members, trying to get them to pressure us into attending her wedding celebration. Some of them reached out to me and said Rachel was hurt and confused by our refusal. I stuck to my guns and didn't budge. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago. My wedding day was beautiful, our family was there, and everyone seemed happy. The day after our wedding, we left for the Maldives. 2 days into our honeymoon, I got a message from Rachel saying she was devastated that we weren't there to celebrate with her and that she felt abandoned. She accused me of being selfish and putting my new marriage before our sisterly bond. I tried to explain again that it wasn't about prioritizing my marriage over her, but about us having plans that were equally important and non-negotiable. I even offered to FaceTime during the event or send a gift, but she said it wasn't the same. When we got back from the honeymoon, I learned from my parents that Rachel had been telling people I was cold and heartless for not attending her wedding celebration. Some family members have started taking sides, and it's creating tension at family gatherings. I feel like I did what was best for my relationship and respected the boundaries I'd set. My sister is hurt, which I hate, but I don't think I'm the bad guy here for standing by my plans and not disrupting my honeymoon for her celebration. AITA? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new fiancé and everyone's upset with me? This has been eating me up for weeks, and honestly, I'm still not sure if I'm the asshole here or not. I just want to lay everything out and maybe get some perspective from strangers on the internet. I, 29F, have always been pretty close with my sister, Emma, 32F. We grew up super tight, sharing everything from childhood secrets to adult problems. We used to talk almost every day, even when we moved to different cities. Over the past few years, though, things between us have gotten complicated, and it all came to a head recently. A bit of background first. Emma has been married once before. Her first marriage ended about 5 years ago, and she had a rough time getting over it. I try to be supportive, but I admit I was also a little cautious about her jumping into a new relationship too quickly. She met her current fiancé, David, about 8 months ago. At first, I was happy she seemed to be moving on and was genuinely happy again. But then, as Emma and David's relationship progressed, I started to notice some red flags. It started with little things, David being dismissive toward me during family events, making snide remarks about my career and life choices, and just generally acting like he wasn't interested in getting along with me or the rest of the family. Emma brushed off my concerns and told me I was overthinking it because David is just shy or he's not used to big family gatherings. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few months, David's behavior got worse. He began making passive-aggressive comments in front of others, interrupting me when I spoke, and even talking over me during conversations. Once, at a holiday dinner, he made a joke about my weight, and while Emma laughed nervously, I was mortified. When I confronted Emma later, she told me to let it go because David didn't mean it that way. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but things escalated further. I found out from another family member that David had been telling others that I was jealous of Emma and trying to sabotage their relationship. This was not true at all. I never once said anything negative about Emma or David to anyone. I was just trying to protect my sister from what I saw as a toxic situation. The last straw happened about 2 weeks ago. Emma and David announced their wedding date, and the whole family was excited, except me. At the rehearsal dinner, David publicly criticized me in front of the whole family. He said that I was being overbearing and toxic, and that Emma didn't need me meddling in her life anymore. I was shocked, embarrassed, and honestly heartbroken. Emma didn't say anything in my defense. She just looked down and avoided my eyes the entire night. After the wedding rehearsal, I pulled Emma aside and told her I couldn't in good conscience attend her wedding if David was going to be there acting the way he had been. I told her I needed to protect my own mental health and that I wasn't comfortable pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Emma was furious. She said I was being selfish and putting my own feelings above her happiness. She told me that if I didn't come to the wedding, I was essentially cutting myself out of her life forever. She accused me of being jealous and unwilling to accept her new relationship. Our parents and the rest of the family have been caught in the middle, with many of them telling me I need to grow up and support my sister no matter what. I still feel strongly that David is toxic and that I'm better off keeping my distance. I don't want to be part of a celebration that feels like a lie, but I also feel guilty because I love my sister and don't want to lose her. I've tried talking to Emma calmly several times since the rehearsal dinner, but she either shuts me out or turns it into an argument. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? Or am I justified in protecting myself from what I see as a harmful situation? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house before their wedding, even though it's causing a major family rift? This has been a huge issue for my family, and I'm still baffled at how it escalated so badly. I, 29F, live in a small but cozy 2-bedroom apartment in the city where I work and have built my life over the last 5 years. I'm pretty independent and take pride in keeping my space clean and calm. My sanctuary, basically. My sister, Emily, 27F, has always been the more outgoing, free-spirited type, while I'm more introverted and structured. We've always been close despite our differences, but this situation is testing our relationship like never before. Emily is engaged to Mark, 30M, who she met about a year ago. From the start, I liked Mark and thought they were happy together, but things started to get complicated when Emily announced that she and Mark would be moving to my city temporarily to plan their wedding and be closer to family. I was supportive and even offered my help with anything wedding-related. Then Emily told me Mark wanted to stay at my apartment for a few weeks while they looked for a place to rent nearby. At first, I thought it was a reasonable request, considering it was supposed to be short-term and they'd be actively searching for their own place. But then Mark's stay turned into a few weeks becoming until after the wedding, which is now almost 3 months away. I told Emily and Mark that while I was happy to help for a very short time, I was not comfortable having someone stay at my place long-term. My apartment is small, and having a third person there constantly disrupts my routine. I work from home occasionally, and Mark's presence means I have zero privacy or quiet. On top of that, Mark is a neatness nightmare. He leaves dishes everywhere, never cleans up after himself, and has no sense of respecting my space. I've addressed these issues calmly and directly, but nothing has improved. Emily reacted badly when I said I wanted Mark to find his own place. She told me I was being selfish and not a good sister for not supporting them during what she calls a stressful and exciting time. My parents got involved, siding mostly with Emily because they think I'm being unreasonable. Mark even started complaining to Emily that I was cold and unwelcoming, which made Emily even angrier. I tried to find a compromise by suggesting Mark could stay a few more days while they found a cheap Airbnb or sublet, but Emily said no, that would be inconvenient and stressful for them. I reminded her that I'm working and need my apartment to be my space, not a mini hotel. Emily accused me of putting my comfort before their happiness. The tension has escalated to the point where Emily barely talks to me and Mark avoids being in the same room with me. My parents keep pressuring me to fix this because they don't want a family split over something like this. I even offered to help pay for a temporary place for Mark, but Emily said that's not the point and that I'm just being stubborn. I feel stuck because I want to support my sister, but I also have the right to say no to someone living in my home, especially when it's negatively affecting my mental health and work. I'm afraid if I give in, Mark's stay will drag on indefinitely, and I'll never have my space back. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my place for months before their wedding, even though it's causing a family rift? Or should I just suck it up and accept this invasion for the sake of family peace? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how my parents are treating me? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my family, especially my parents. Growing up, I was the quiet, responsible one, while my younger sister, 25F, was the golden child. This dynamic was subtle, but very real. My parents praised and indulged my sister for every achievement, from academic successes to social events, while I was often ignored or subtly criticized. It wasn't extreme or abusive, but it created a deep-rooted feeling of being undervalued that stayed with me into adulthood. My sister is getting married in a few months, and the planning has brought everything back to the surface. The wedding is a massive event. Over 200 guests, multiple parties, and a significant financial investment from my parents. My parents have been extremely involved in every detail, which on the surface is fine, but the way they've been treating me during the process has been nothing short of disrespectful. It started with the invitations. My sister asked me to help with the guest list and seating chart. I spent hours working on it, trying to include everyone important to the family while balancing space and budgets. When I presented the final draft to my parents, they outright dismissed my suggestions and claimed I didn't understand the family politics. They then rearranged the seating chart without even consulting me or my sister. Then there was the rehearsal dinner. My parents insisted it be at a fancy restaurant they picked without any input from me or my sister. When I tried to suggest alternatives that were more meaningful to us, my mom snapped at me, saying I was being difficult and trying to ruin the wedding. This wasn't a one-off. Every time I voiced a concern or a different opinion, I was labeled as the troublemaker. The tipping point came when my parents told me that because my fiancé and I couldn't attend the bachelor/bachelorette parties, they were scheduled on work days we couldn't get off, I wasn't welcome at the wedding ceremony itself. According to them, it was a punishment for not prioritizing the wedding over everything else. They said that since I wasn't supportive enough, I had no place at the ceremony, but I could come to the reception if I wanted. I was stunned. I asked them if they were serious, and they doubled down, saying this was to teach me a lesson about family loyalty. I tried reasoning with them, explaining that we had legitimate work commitments and that I wanted to be part of my sister's big day, but it was like talking to a wall. They refused to budge. I told my sister what my parents had said, hoping she'd intervene. She was upset, but said she felt powerless and didn't want to cause more drama before her wedding. She encouraged me to keep trying with my parents, but also seemed to distance herself from the conflict. At this point, I'm torn. I want to support my sister and be there for her, but my parents' treatment feels manipulative and controlling. It's hard to feel like I'm being punished for things beyond my control. I've considered skipping the wedding altogether, which would probably hurt my sister, but I also don't want to enable my parents' behavior by going along with it. My fiancé, 30M, is fully supportive of me and agrees that this whole situation is unfair. He said I shouldn't have to attend a wedding where I'm made to feel unwelcome and disrespected. On the other hand, some friends have told me to try harder to keep the peace because it's my sister's special day. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how my parents are treating me? Is there a better way to handle this? Or am I justified in standing my ground? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my fiancé? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Claire, 32F. We grew up close, but drifted apart in the last few years due to differing life choices and some unresolved family tensions. Despite that, I always tried to maintain a cordial relationship, especially since she was the only sibling I had. A little background. I've been with my fiancé, James, 30M, for about 3 years. He's kind, funny, and treats me better than anyone ever has. We recently got engaged and have started planning our future together, which has been exciting but also stressful because of family dynamics. Claire got engaged last year to her boyfriend, Tom. Right from the beginning, I felt uneasy about Tom. Not because of who he was, but because of how Claire started to change after meeting him. She became distant, more controlling, and started treating our family differently, especially James. The tension began during a family dinner shortly after Claire announced her engagement. Tom was there too, and during the night, he made a few snide remarks about James, his job, his background, even how he dresses. At first, I thought maybe I was reading too much into it, but James looked really uncomfortable. Claire didn't say anything to stop him, and that hurt. Over the next few months, Claire's behavior toward James got worse. She started excluding him from family events, ignoring messages, and even made some passive-aggressive comments to me about settling for less. I confronted her once about it, hoping to clear the air, but she just brushed it off and accused me of being jealous or overreacting. Despite this, I tried to keep the peace because I wanted my sister's wedding to be a happy occasion. However, the breaking point came when Claire invited me to a bridal shower, but explicitly told me not to bring James. When I asked why, she said it was a girls-only event and that James wasn't welcome because of how he made Tom uncomfortable. I was shocked and hurt. I told Claire that if James wasn't welcome, I wasn't coming either. I explained that excluding my fiancé felt like a personal attack on our relationship. She responded by saying she didn't want drama at her wedding and that if I cared about her, I would respect her wishes. I talked to James about it, and he agreed that Claire's behavior was unfair and that he didn't want to be treated that way. We decided I wouldn't attend the bridal shower and, eventually, the wedding if the situation didn't change. I told Claire that I couldn't support a wedding where my fiancé was disrespected and excluded. She accused me of ruining her big day and told me I was being selfish. Our parents tried to mediate but sided with Claire, saying that she had the right to invite whoever she wanted and that I was making a scene over nothing. Since then, I haven't spoken much to Claire. I've told her I'm happy to celebrate her marriage, but only if James is treated with respect and included. She hasn't responded. Family gatherings have become tense, with my parents pushing me to get over it and attend the wedding regardless. But I feel like attending would mean accepting the way Claire and Tom treat James, which I'm not willing to do. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my fiancé and treated him poorly? Is family loyalty more important than standing up for my relationship? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited my kids because of their disabilities? This has been eating me up, and I really need to get some perspective from strangers before I even consider talking to my family again. I, 38F, have 2 kids, ages 10 and 7. Both have disabilities. My son has autism, and my daughter has a sensory processing disorder. They're both amazing kids, and while their needs sometimes require extra patience and understanding, we've learned how to navigate most social situations fairly well over the years. We've always been upfront with family and friends about their needs, and for the most part, people have been understanding. My younger sister, Emily, 34F, has been planning her wedding for over a year. She's always been the type who likes things very polished and perfect, and honestly, I thought that's just who she is, and that's fine. The venue is a historic mansion with a strict capacity and many rules, about decor and guest behavior. When she invited me, I happily accepted with my kids. I also told her up front about their disabilities and that they might need some accommodations, quiet space, breaks, etc., which she seemed to brush off but didn't explicitly object to. Fast forward to about 2 months before the wedding, I got a call from Emily. She told me that she had given it some thought and decided she couldn't have my kids at the wedding. She said the venue was not appropriate for children with special needs and that it would disrupt the atmosphere for the guests. She said she had spoken with the venue management and they had concerns about liability and potential disturbances. I was shocked. I told her that my kids are usually well-behaved in formal settings and that I would ensure they behaved and took breaks as needed. I even offered to hire a special needs aide or bring a family friend to help if that made her feel better. She wasn't having it. She said, "I want my wedding to be about me and my fiancé, not about managing your kids' special needs." She told me she had to limit the guest list anyway, and that having my kids there would mean cutting out other people who didn't have special needs. She also said she didn't want other guests to feel uncomfortable or distracted. I was hurt and angry. I told her that disinviting my kids was not acceptable and that they're family too. She said that this was her day and she should have the right to decide who attends. We ended the call on a sour note. After that, I talked to my parents and a few other relatives. Most of them said Emily was being unreasonable and that her behavior was selfish. My parents said they would still attend the wedding with me and the kids, but Emily reached out to them and told them that if they brought my kids, they would be unwelcome too. The situation escalated. Emily sent me a formal email reiterating that my kids were not welcome and that if I showed up with them, I would be asked to leave. She said she didn't want to cause family drama, but felt she had no choice. I ended up telling Emily I wouldn't attend if my kids couldn't come. I said this wasn't about me being difficult, but about standing up for my children and their place in the family. She hasn't responded since. My parents are disappointed that I won't be at the wedding, and some other family members think I'm overreacting or being too sensitive. But to me, this feels like blatant discrimination against my kids. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she disinvited my children due to their disabilities? Or is she justified in wanting to exclude them for the sake of her perfect wedding day? I'm torn because I want to support my sister, but not at the expense of my kids feeling rejected and unwelcome. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house during a family emergency, even though everyone else thinks I'm overreacting. I, 29F, have always been the responsible one in my family, or at least that's what I'm told. I'm a teacher. I live in a modest but well-kept apartment, and I try to keep a good relationship with my parents and sister. My sister, Emily, 27F, has always been more free-spirited. She's a graphic designer who moves around a lot, sometimes crashing on friends' couches or traveling abroad for months at a time. She's been dating this guy, Mike, 30M, for about a year now. Mike is charming, outgoing, and seems nice enough, but I've never really liked him much. My feelings about Mike aren't rooted in some deep personal grudge. He's just always rubbed me the wrong way. When they first started dating, I noticed he was a bit controlling, like trying to decide who she could hang out with or what she should wear. Emily didn't seem to mind at the time, so I kept my mouth shut. But as the months went by, I saw her personality changing. She became quieter and more withdrawn when he was around, stopped hanging out with old friends, and seemed less enthusiastic about her work. I voiced my concerns gently, but Emily told me I was overthinking it and that Mike was just protective. Last week, our dad suddenly had a minor stroke. Thankfully, it wasn't severe, but he needed someone to stay with him at the hospital for a few days while he recovered. Our mom is overwhelmed with work and taking care of him, so the rest of us pitched in. I went to the hospital every day after work and stayed with Dad during the night shifts when I could. Emily lives about 45 minutes away, so she tried to come when she could, but her work schedule was hectic. Now here's where things got complicated. Emily asked if Mike could stay at my place for a couple of days while she was at the hospital. She explained that his apartment was under renovation, and since he was spending a lot of time at the hospital with her, it would be easier for him to crash at my place. I was hesitant, but didn't want to sound harsh, so I said I'd think about it. The next day, I told Emily I wasn't comfortable having Mike stay at my apartment. I explained that I barely knew him and didn't feel right sharing my personal space with someone who makes me uneasy. I also told her that the apartment is small, and I don't want to disrupt the fragile balance I've going on there, especially when I'm trying to keep my stress levels down during this family crisis. Emily immediately got defensive and accused me of being selfish and making this harder for everyone. She said I was being petty and that Mike wasn't just some random stranger. I should treat him like family. Our mom also called me later and said I needed to get over my issues with Mike and help out the family during this tough time. Even some of my friends told me I was being unreasonable and that family comes first. Despite the backlash, I stuck to my decision. I offered to let Mike come over for a few hours during the day if he needed to drop off stuff or rest briefly, but no overnight stays. Emily said she was disappointed and hurt, but respected it enough not to push further. A couple of nights ago, Mike showed up unannounced at my apartment around 9 p.m. while I was cooking dinner. He said Emily told him I said it was okay to stay. I was furious because I never said that. I asked him to leave immediately, and we got into a tense argument where he accused me of being rude and unwelcoming. I told him he was not welcome to stay, especially uninvited. Emily found out about the confrontation and sent me a long text saying I was making things worse for everyone and that she didn't want to be around me right now. She also said Mike was feeling really upset and might not come back to the hospital. That hurt because I want my family to pull together during this stressful time, but I also don't think I'm wrong for setting boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my place during our dad's hospital stay, even though the rest of the family thinks I'm being selfish and overreacting. I want to help, but I also want to protect my personal space and mental well-being. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new husband's behavior and the way my family is treating me. This has been building for a while, and I need to get this off my chest. I, 32F, come from a relatively close-knit family, and my younger sister, 28F, recently got engaged to a man named Jake, 30M. The problem is that from the moment he entered our lives, things have been off. I've always tried to keep my reservations to myself to avoid causing family drama, but it's gotten to a point where I feel like I can't stay silent anymore. Jake and I have very different personalities. He's loud, brash, and has a tendency to be disrespectful towards people he deems lesser, which includes a lot of our relatives and even people in service roles. For example, at a family barbecue last summer, he loudly criticized the waiter for not refilling his drink fast enough and called him incompetent in front of everyone. The waiter was clearly uncomfortable, and several family members exchanged awkward glances. I tried to diffuse the situation by changing the subject, but Jake kept up with snide comments for the rest of the night. This was just the start. Over the next few months, I noticed him doing similar things at family gatherings, making passive-aggressive remarks about my parents' modest house, belittling my sister's job because it doesn't pay enough, and generally acting like the king of the castle. What's worse, my sister seemed to think all of this was charming or just his way and defended him every time I tried to bring it up privately. I told her I was uncomfortable around him and that he was disrespectful to people we cared about, but she brushed it off, saying I was being too sensitive and that Jake was just a bit rough around the edges. My parents, meanwhile, have been strangely silent or even supportive of Jake. They say he's good for her and makes her happy, and whenever I voice concerns, they accuse me of trying to cause a rift in the family. This has left me feeling isolated. I don't want to be the person who ruins my sister's big day, but after what happened last week, I'm at my breaking point. Last weekend, my sister and Jake had an engagement party at a local venue. I showed up with my partner and a few close family members, hoping the night would be better than before. But it wasn't. Jake arrived late and immediately started making jokes at the expense of my sister's friends, calling one of them basic and mocking their clothing. Then he made a sarcastic comment about my partner's job in front of everyone, laughing at how underwhelming it was compared to his own career. It was humiliating, and no one defended me or my partner. My sister laughed along, and told me to lighten up. The final straw was when Jake grabbed the microphone to give a toast. Instead of something sweet, he launched into a long rant about how he's rescued my sister from her boring life and how he's the real prize in the family now. There were a few awkward chuckles, but mostly stunned silence. I could see my parents exchange looks, but say nothing. After the party, I confronted my sister privately. I told her that Jake's behavior was unacceptable and that I couldn't be around someone who treated my family and friends with such disrespect. She accused me of being jealous and trying to sabotage her happiness. She said if I couldn't accept Jake, I shouldn't come to the wedding. This brings me to now. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and I've decided not to attend. I've told my parents and sister that I won't be there unless Jake changes his attitude and apologizes for his behavior. They say I'm being unreasonable and selfish, and some extended family members have even reached out to criticize me for breaking the family apart. My partner supports me, but I'm torn because I love my sister and want her to be happy. But at the same time, I feel like accepting Jake's behavior is a betrayal of my values and my sense of self-respect. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how her fiancé behaves and the way my family is treating me when I voice my concerns? Or should I just suck it up for the sake of family peace? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my abusive ex? So this is going to be long because there's a lot of backstory that I feel is necessary to fully understand the situation. I'm 28F, and my sister, let's call her Sarah, is getting married in a few months. I was really excited for her wedding and to be part of her big day, until I found out that she invited my ex, whom I have a complicated and painful history with. Here's the backstory. I was in a relationship with this guy, Jason, for about 2 years. For the first year, things were fine, but then his true colors started showing. Jason was emotionally and occasionally physically abusive. It started with gaslighting, controlling who I could talk to, and making me doubt my own reality. Then it escalated to more overt emotional abuse, insulting me constantly, undermining my self-esteem, isolating me from friends and family. The physical abuse was less frequent, but terrifying when it happened. I finally got the courage to leave him about a year ago. Since then, I've been slowly rebuilding my life, therapy included. It's been tough, but I'm in a much better place now. I haven't spoken to Jason since the breakup because it was the healthiest thing for me. I expected everyone to respect that boundary, especially my family. Now, here's where the wedding drama begins. Sarah, my younger sister, has been dating her fiancé for a couple of years, and they set the wedding date for next spring. About a month ago, I got the wedding invitation in the mail. I was thrilled to be included and even started planning my dress and travel. Then I asked Sarah about the guest list casually, and she told me she invited Jason. I was shocked and hurt. I confronted her, asking why she would invite him when she knew what he did to me and how toxic he was. Sarah told me she wanted to keep the peace and that Jason had apologized and promised he changed. She also said she wanted the wedding to be a happy occasion without drama, so she wasn't going to uninvite him. I explained how much it hurts me to have him there and how I wasn't ready to face him or even be in the same room as him. I reminded her that Jason's presence would bring up a lot of trauma for me and that I might not be able to come to the wedding if he was attending. Sarah responded that I was being dramatic and that Jason had moved on. She said I needed to get over it and implied I was making the wedding about myself. Our conversation ended with her saying she couldn't control who Jason brought as a guest and that if I didn't come, it would be my loss. I was crushed. I tried to talk to my parents, but they sided with Sarah, saying it was Sarah's wedding and she could invite whoever she wanted. They said I should try to be mature and accept that Jason was part of the family now, since Sarah's fiancé was friends with him, and some people from the extended family had also invited Jason. I told them I felt betrayed and unsupported, but they said I was overreacting and needed to let it go. I'm really hurt and feeling isolated. I don't want to cause a scene or ruin the wedding, but I also don't want to put myself through that trauma. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my abusive ex? Or should I just suck it up and try to coexist with Jason for one day? Thanks for reading. Edit to add some clarifications. Jason's abuse was not just in my head. I have texts, emails and photos documenting some of the emotional and physical abuse. I shared these with Sarah when I told her the truth. She brushed it off, saying she thought I was exaggerating. Sarah and Jason have never really talked about what happened between me and Jason. She says she wants to believe the new Jason, who is supposedly a changed man, but she won't listen to my side. I asked Sarah if she could consider at least not inviting Jason or asking him not to come. She said no. I have no desire to stir up drama at the wedding or cause a scene. I just want to protect my own mental health and feel safe. Sarah's fiancé also invited Jason, which complicates things, but I haven't spoken directly to him about this. I'm hoping for some perspective here because I feel like I'm stuck between protecting myself and supporting my sister on her big day, but it's hard when she doesn't seem to care about my feelings. Would love to hear your thoughts. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she completely excluded me and my family from the planning, then blaming me when I didn't show up. So here's the deal. My sister, Emily, and I have never been super close, but we're civil. We grew up together, but our personalities and lifestyles are very different. I'm married with 2 kids, 8 and 10, and live about 45 minutes away from her hometown. Emily is single, career-driven, and lives in a different state. When Emily got engaged about a year ago, I was genuinely happy for her. I reached out early on to congratulate her and asked if she wanted help with any planning. She said she had it covered and would keep me in the loop. Fair enough. I wasn't expecting a ton of involvement, but I figured she would at least tell me when and where the wedding would be. Over the next several months, I heard very little. No invitations, no calls, no updates. I assumed maybe she was waiting to send invites closer to the date. Then about 3 weeks before the wedding, I found out from a mutual friend that the wedding was already planned, set to be in a city about 3 hours away from where both of us live. Apparently, she'd picked a venue, a date, and had a guest list that didn't include me or my family. I was shocked and honestly hurt. I immediately called Emily, asking why we hadn't been invited. She said she didn't want a big family affair and was keeping the wedding very small and intimate with only a handful of friends and relatives. She told me that because we don't see each other often and aren't particularly close, she thought it wouldn't make sense to invite us. She also said that since my husband and I had busy schedules, it might be a hassle for us to come. She ended with, "I'm sorry you're upset, but this is my day." I try to explain that family is important to me and that even if we're not super close, I would have appreciated being included or at least told about the wedding. Emily didn't budge. She said it was her choice and I needed to respect it. I told her I was hurt and disappointed, but that I wouldn't be able to attend a wedding where I wasn't even invited. A couple of days later, Emily called back furious, accusing me of overreacting, making this about myself, and being selfish for refusing to support her on her big day. She told me that she hoped I could get over it and grow up because she wasn't going to change her mind. Meanwhile, our parents and some other family members caught wind of the drama. They mostly sided with Emily, saying that the wedding was her day and that I was making it about myself by insisting on being included. A few close friends told me Emily was maybe overwhelmed or stressed and that she probably didn't think about it as deeply as I did. I've since stayed off social media about the wedding and haven't said anything more to Emily. The wedding happened and I didn't attend. I got a few texts after the wedding from Emily, calling me selfish again and telling me I ruined her day. Here's where I'm stuck. My husband says I should have just sucked it up and gone to the wedding to support my sister. My kids miss their aunt and ask why she never invited them to anything. I'm hurt, but I don't want to pretend everything is fine when I was essentially erased from a major family event. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend the wedding after Emily excluded me and my family? Was I unreasonable to expect an invitation or at least a heads up? Should I just try to let it go and move on, or am I justified in feeling hurt and standing my ground? I'm really torn about this, and any perspective would help. Thanks. AITA for refusing to give my sister's husband a large sum of money after he lost his job, despite my sister begging me. This has been a difficult situation for me, and I need an outside perspective because my family is divided and I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong. A little background. I'm 33F, my sister is 31F, and she's married to 33M. We'll call him Jake. For years, Jake has always been the one who handled the finances in their household. He had a steady job as an engineer, making good money, while my sister focused on her freelance graphic design work, which has been inconsistent. I've always admired how they seemed like a team and how Jake was the breadwinner. About 6 months ago, Jake was unexpectedly laid off due to company downsizing. It hit them hard because, as I mentioned, my sister's income wasn't enough to cover their living expenses, and they had a mortgage, 2 car payments, and some credit card debt. They initially tried to tighten their budget, but with limited income and no job offers in sight, the stress was palpable. My sister called me about 3 months after Jake's layoff. She told me they were struggling to keep up with bills and asked if I could help them out by lending Jake $20,000. She said Jake was too proud to ask directly, but really needed the help. I was stunned because that's a significant amount of money for me. I work as a teacher, and while I'm financially stable, I'm not wealthy by any means. I don't have that kind of cash lying around, but I did have some savings that I've been putting aside for house down payment and emergencies. I asked why they couldn't get a loan or reach out to family or friends, but my sister said that Jake had already tried and failed because their credit scores weren't great due to some medical bills and a few missed payments. She insisted that I was the only person who could help them without all the red tape, and that Jake would pay me back eventually once he found a job. I was torn. I love my sister and want to support her and Jake, but lending that much money felt like a huge risk. What if they couldn't pay me back? What if this strained my finances? I explained all of this to her, but she kept pressuring me and guilt-tripping me. She said that family is supposed to help family, and that if I love them, I would find a way to help. After a lot of back and forth, I told her no. I said I was willing to help in other ways, like babysitting her kids, helping with groceries, or even giving smaller amounts. But that $20,000 was beyond what I could do. She was furious and accused me of being selfish and not caring about her family's well-being. The situation escalated when she posted on social media about family members who refused to help in times of need, tagging me without naming me directly, but making it obvious who she meant. That really hurt me because I never asked for sympathy or to be called out publicly. Since then, my sister and Jake have barely spoken to me, and family gatherings have been tense. Other relatives have taken her side, saying I should have helped because we're family. But some have told me I'm right to protect my own finances and that I shouldn't be guilted into a loan I can't afford. Here's where I'm stuck. I genuinely want to help my sister and her husband, but not at the risk of my own financial security. I've tried to offer support in other ways, but it feels like it's never enough for them. So, AITA for refusing to lend my sister's husband $20,000 after he lost his job, even though she begged me and accused me of being selfish? Or am I justified in protecting my own financial stability? I'd appreciate any advice or perspective. Thanks. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior towards my daughter. I, 37F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, 34F. We grew up close, but drifted apart in adulthood, mainly due to differing lifestyles and values. I have one daughter, Lily, who is 9, and Emily has been a bit distant from her over the years. Our parents passed away when we were younger, so Emily and I have had to navigate life mostly on our own. Despite the distance, I was happy when Emily told me she was engaged to a man named Jason, and I was looking forward to reconnecting through this new chapter. About 3 months ago, Emily announced her wedding date and invited me and Lily. Initially, I was excited and said yes right away. However, shortly after, I started noticing Jason's behavior toward Lily was odd. It started with small things. At a family dinner, I caught him glaring at Lily when she tried to join a conversation. Then, at a casual outing, he made a snide remark about how kids should know when to be quiet after Lily innocently asked him a question. I tried brushing it off, assuming maybe he was just having a bad day. But the behavior escalated quickly. One evening, Emily and I were at her apartment with Lily when Jason snapped at her for accidentally knocking over a cup. He said, "She needs to learn some manners or she's going to be a nightmare." Emily laughed it off awkwardly, but I felt uneasy. The real breaking point came when Jason was babysitting Lily while Emily and I went out for a quick dinner. When we returned, Lily was visibly upset and told me Jason had yelled at her for being too loud and refused to give her a snack he promised earlier. I was furious and immediately confronted Jason, who denied being harsh and claimed Lily was being dramatic. I told Emily what happened, but she dismissed my concerns. She said Jason was stressed from wedding planning and that Lily was just too sensitive. Emily urged me not to make a big deal out of it because Jason was the love of her life and she wanted everyone to get along. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Jason's treatment of Lily didn't improve. He would ignore her when she spoke, roll his eyes at her questions, and even told her once that she was acting like a spoiled brat. Lily started showing signs of anxiety, becoming withdrawn and hesitant around Jason. I tried talking to Emily multiple times, but she always defended Jason and accused me of making mountains out of molehills. The final straw was a weekend trip Emily planned, inviting me, Lily, and Jason to her new house. During the trip, Jason openly criticized Lily in front of everyone, saying she was a handful and lacking discipline. Lily cried and ran to me. I was livid and told Emily that I wouldn't subject my daughter to that kind of environment anymore. I told her I couldn't attend the wedding if Jason was going to be involved in Lily's life. Emily blew up. She accused me of being selfish and trying to ruin her wedding. She said I was overreacting and that Jason was a good man who loved her and would learn to get along with Lily. We haven't spoken since that argument. Emily went ahead with the wedding last weekend, and I stayed home with Lily. Now, several family members are calling me selfish and unsupportive. They say I should have put aside my personal issues for Emily's big day and tried harder to get along with Jason for the sake of family unity. Some are even suggesting I'm overprotective and that I'm damaging my relationship with Emily by refusing to attend. I feel like my priority has to be my daughter's well-being, and Jason's behavior toward her was unacceptable. But I'm also sad and conflicted because I don't want to lose my sister completely. I'm torn between standing up for Lily and trying to keep family peace. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior toward my daughter. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after she disinvited me from the wedding. So, this is a long one, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks. I, 32F, have a sister, Emily, 28F, and we've had a complicated relationship for years. Not necessarily bad, but always competitive and a bit strained. Our family dynamic is tough. Our parents divorced when we were young, and Emily got a lot of attention from my mom, while I got more from my dad, so we grew up kind of parallel but separate. Anyway, Emily recently got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark, 30M, after dating for about 2 years. When she first told me, I was happy for her, but also nervous because our relationship has always been delicate, and I wasn't sure how involved I'd be in the wedding plans. I didn't expect to be the maid of honor or anything, but I did hope I'd be invited to the wedding. About 3 months ago, Emily invited me to her apartment to talk about wedding stuff. When I got there, she immediately told me she had decided not to invite me to the wedding. I was shocked and hurt, but asked why. She said it was because I didn't support her relationship enough, and that I was too negative about Mark. I was stunned because I hadn't said anything bad about him. I had met him a few times, and while I didn't gush over him, I was polite and didn't say anything mean. I told her I just wanted to be happy for her and support her, but she wasn't having it. She said she wanted the wedding to be a small, positive environment, and thought it was better if I wasn't there. I was crushed but didn't want to argue and make it worse, so I left quietly. Fast forward to last week, Emily called me out of the blue, sounding upset. She told me Mark's parents were having a hard time finding a place to stay during the wedding weekend, and she asked if I could let Mark stay at my house for the weekend. She said it would be only a couple of nights, and he would keep to himself. She said it was important for Mark's parents to have somewhere close to the venue, but since they couldn't find a hotel, this was the best option. At this point, I was already hurt from being disinvited and a little angry, but I didn't want to be petty. So, I said I needed to think about it. After talking it over with my partner, I decided to say no. I told Emily that since I wasn't invited to the wedding and she had cut me out of this big part of her life, I wasn't comfortable having Mark stay at my house. I also said I wasn't okay being used as a last resort, and that if she wanted to work on our relationship, she should have invited me in the first place, not try to patch things by asking me to house sit her fiancé. Emily immediately blew up at me. She called me selfish, immature, and said I was making this about me when it was just a favor. She said Mark's parents were important to her and that I was causing unnecessary drama. She then told me that if I didn't let Mark stay, she'd make sure I wasn't involved in the family at all. She said she told my parents what a problem I was and that they were upset with me too. Since then, I haven't spoken to Emily. Our parents have tried to get me to apologize and fix things, but I feel like I'm the one who's been wronged here. I didn't ask to be excluded from the wedding. I didn't make her fiancé's family scramble for accommodations. And now I'm being pressured to help out someone who won't even invite me to their wedding. My partner thinks I'm justified, but some of my friends say I should just let Mark stay and try to keep the peace. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after she disinvited me from the wedding. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding, which caused a huge fallout between us. So, this is a long one, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. I, 29F, am getting married in about 6 months. My fiancé, 30M, and I have been together for 5 years, and we're both super excited about the wedding. We've planned a fairly traditional ceremony and reception at a beautiful outdoor venue that means a lot to us. It's a botanical garden that's known for its quiet and serene atmosphere, perfect for the vibe we want. Now, my sister, 27F, got engaged last year as well. She's been dating her fiancé, Jake, 28M, for about 2 years. Jake is great, really nice guy, but he's very attached to his dog, a large, somewhat rambunctious golden retriever named Max. The thing is, Max has a history of being a bit unpredictable around new people and in unfamiliar environments. He's been known to jump on guests, bark excessively, and generally make a scene, which isn't ideal for a formal event like a wedding. From the start, I was clear with my sister that the wedding would be a dog-free event. The venue itself has a strict no-pets policy except for service animals, and honestly, I wanted the day to be as stress-free and calm as possible. My fiancé and I have both attended weddings where dogs cause chaos, and neither of us wanted to deal with that. I told my sister early on about the no-dog rule, and she seemed to understand, though I could tell she was a bit disappointed. She promised she'd make arrangements for Max to be cared for by a friend during the wedding day. That was fine with me. I thought it was settled. Fast forward a few months, and Jake starts bringing up the idea of Max attending the wedding. At first, he asked if maybe Max could just come for the ceremony or only during the outdoor cocktail hour. I reiterated the venue's policy and our wishes for a dog-free event. He said he'd talk to my sister. Then things got a bit more complicated. My sister suddenly became really defensive about the idea. She said that Max is part of their family and that excluding him felt hurtful and unfair, especially since other people with kids and all sorts of things are going to be at the wedding. She started implying that we were being unreasonable and that it was a minor thing to ask for given the importance of the day. We had a few heated conversations. She accused me of prioritizing aesthetics over family, and I told her that the decision wasn't about looks, but about creating a safe and comfortable environment for everyone, including guests with allergies or fears of dogs. Plus, I reminded her that the venue rules were non-negotiable. Eventually, she and Jake said they might bring Max anyway, arguing that they'd keep him on a leash and under control. I said no, and that if they showed up with a dog, they wouldn't be allowed in. I was really firm on this. A few weeks ago, I got a message from my sister saying she was deeply hurt by our stance and that Jake felt unwelcome. She said they might not attend the wedding if Max couldn't come. I tried to talk to her and explain that the wedding was about me and my fiancé. And while I loved her and wanted her there, I couldn't compromise on the dog issue. Now, the fallout has been intense. My sister has gone no contact with me. Jake has unfriended my fiancé on social media. Family members are taking sides, with some saying I'm being petty and others saying I'm right to enforce the rules. My parents are caught in the middle and are pretty stressed out. Honestly, I feel awful about how this has affected my relationship with my sister. But I also feel like I have to stand firm on the dog issue. The wedding is supposed to be a joyful, calm day, and I don't want to risk it turning into chaos. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding. even though it has caused a huge family rift? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé throw a lavish bachelor party in my house, even though it's been tradition for years. I, 30M, live in a 3-bedroom house that I bought about a year ago after years of saving and hard work. It's a modest but comfortable place in a quiet neighborhood. My sister, Emily, 28F, has been dating her fiancé, Jason, 32M, for about 2 years now. They recently got engaged, and the wedding planning has been in full swing. For some background, my sister and Jason have always been close with my family, and we all try to be involved in each other's lives. Here's the thing. For the past 5 years, Emily's fiancé's best friend, who's married to one of Emily's childhood friends, has thrown a bachelor party for each groom in the house I now own. This started as a small gathering when my brother-in-law got married, and somehow it turned into a tradition that the bachelor party would be held at my house every time one of Emily's close friends got married. The kicker is, none of these parties involved me or my input, and I usually find out about them days or even hours before they happen. When I bought my house, I was excited to host family events, dinners, and get-togethers. I'm a pretty laid-back person, and I enjoy having people over. But I'm also very clear about boundaries and respect for my space. The previous bachelor parties in my house range from moderately wild to, frankly, chaotic. We're talking loud music, late-night noise, excessive drinking, and sometimes damage to the property. My family members would usually clean up afterward, but I was left stressed and frustrated about having my personal space treated like a public party venue. When Jason announced his engagement, I was genuinely happy for them. However, when I found out through Emily that Jason's bachelor party was planned to be at my house again, I was a bit taken aback. I told Emily that this time, I wanted to be involved in the planning or at least know what to expect. I expressed that I didn't want the party to be a repeat of the previous ones. I was hoping to set clear boundaries and maybe tone things down, especially since I live there full-time and have a job that requires me to be rested. Emily seemed surprised by my reaction. She told me that it's just how things have always been done, and that Jason's friends wouldn't understand if I said no. She said they saw my house as the place because it's convenient and has a nice backyard. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the idea of a large, potentially wild party without any oversight or control from me. I suggested they find another venue or maybe rent a space. She then told me that I was being unreasonable and not a team player, especially since I'm part of the family and should support Jason during his bachelor party. She implied that I was being selfish and ruining a tradition that's important to her and her fiancé's social circle. Emily also mentioned that Jason would be disappointed if I didn't allow it, and it would cause tension between us. I stood my ground, explaining that my house is my sanctuary, and I want to maintain it in a way that feels safe and comfortable for me. I also pointed out that no one had ever asked me before about hosting these parties and that I'm not opposed to celebrating Jason, but it shouldn't come at the expense of my peace or property. The conversation ended somewhat awkwardly, and Emily has since been distant. Jason hasn't said much to me directly, but I know from mutual friends that he's unhappy with my decision. Some family members have tried to mediate, saying that I should just go with the flow and not make it a big deal, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being painted as the villain for setting reasonable boundaries. I want to emphasize that I'm not against celebrating Jason or my sister's upcoming marriage. I just don't want to be forced into hosting events that disrupt my life and space, especially when I'm not involved in planning or invited to participate in the way I'd like. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé's bachelor party be held at my house this time, even though it's been a tradition for the past several weddings. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.